Hey guys, OZ420CT here with another episode of The Verdict. And today we're taking a look at a game from one of my favorite franchises of all time, the Final Fantasy series. So I'm calling to the stand Final Fantasy Type-0 HD. Now, Final Fantasy debuted in Japan on the NES, or the Famicom, way back in 1987, and it hit US shores in 1990. There are dozens and dozens of games on systems from NES, all the way up to like the iPhone, Android games. Tons of different styles that range from the traditional RPG to fighting games, shooting games, and even rhythm games. So with that being stated, I'm just going to talk about Type-0 as not to turn this into like a 90-minute history class. So Final Fantasy Type-0 HD started its life as a game for mobile devices back in 2005. It was part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis series, I hope I pronounced that right, which included different Final Fantasy games set in different worlds that all revolved around a common mythos of powerful crystals tied to more powerful deities. Now, during 2006 and 2008, the development was in a state of limbo, mostly because the bulk of the team was working overtime on finishing Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core for the PSP. That, plus the sheer scale of the game and limitations of the mobile phones of the time, really set it back. It was originally shopped as an online RPG with mini-games, a day-to-night cycle, all playable on your phone. Even a calendar that corresponded with the real-world calendar, and a bunch of different MMO elements. Finally, in 2008, developers came to their senses and canned the Android iPhone idea and started work with a PSP exclusive development. But again, it was put in limbo and almost canceled because the team was again working on another PSP title, The Third Birthday, which is part of the Parasite Eve franchise. I would definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. If you have a PSP, you might be able to find a copy online, or, there's always emulators. I didn't say that, but they exist. The final change of the game would come between 2009 and 2011, as the name changed from Final Fantasy Agito 13 to Final Fantasy Type-0, mostly to distance itself from Final Fantasy 13, as they had very little in common besides that mythos, and to separate it from the main series. It ended up hitting the PSP in Japan back in 2011, and besides imports, the West wouldn't get a chance to play it till its HD remaster. Now, the remaster was a labor of love that started back in 2012 between Hexadrive and Square Enix. Originally planned for the 360 and PS3, the subsequent launch and success of the 8th generation of consoles led the team to set their sights on Xbone and PS4. And with awesome, beautiful expanded color palette, higher resolution, and utilizing the DirectX 11 technology and the Hexadrive 2.0 engine, Final Fantasy Type-0 HD released on consoles in March of 2015 with a PC release that came in August. Sporting a beautiful collector's edition that featured a golden steelbook case, hardcover art book, even replica cards that coincide with Ace's in-game weapon. One of the big pluses was that even standard and digital copies came with a Final Fantasy 15 demo, which fans of the series have been waiting for forever. It looks gorgeous, and I could probably do a whole episode just on the demo. But back to Type-0. Type-0 sets a much, much darker tone than maybe the not-so-fun and well-received games such as Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 13-2. And damn it, Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns. truth be told, Final Fantasy hasn't really felt the same since it hit the 360 and PS3, and Type-0 reminds all of us of the good old days. Now, Type-0 has the fan service turned up to 11. You have an explorable world map that we haven't seen in a good long while. You have a pilotable airship, and rideable, catchable, breedable chocobos, which is always one of my favorite distractions in Final Fantasy. Now, Type-0 introduces you to Class 0. These are 14 unique soldiers. They're fighting across the world of Orience in a mission-based format. Now, in between these missions, you gain time to explore, visit cities and towns that you've liberated in missions, or in a fun and fairly simple real-time strategy engagement. It's a really fun, kind of simple real-time strategy thing. If you're not a real-time strategy player, if you've never played one, you're gonna be fine. It's really simple, tough but simple. Your main combat, whether it be raiding cities or random engagements on the world map, happens in real time, and it kind of walks the line between tactical and button mashing. What's great is each character has a different feel, from long-range card-throwing ace to my personal favorite 9, who gets up close and personal with his lance. Summons also make a return at a price. To summon, you have to sacrifice a member of your team, but you get to take full control of classic summon monsters like Ifrit and Odin, Shiva, and a few others. You'll find side quests and shops all over the world, but I find myself a lot of stuff to keep busy right in Academia, your home city and base of operations. This is where you'll launch missions, take classes, you can train members of your squad, and upgrade magic with Phantoma that you harvest from fallen foes. The story is told via this cool History Channel-esque recap of events, and then interactions and cutscenes between class members and NPCs. The game is tough as nails and thankfully has a new Game Plus feature that lets you carry over your level, and you'll need it for the higher difficulties, believe me. So the good is that the game is fun. Whether you've been hooked on Final Fantasy for years like me, or you've never played a Final Fantasy title, the combat is fun. And having access to the whole class right off the bat gives you choice like no other game in the series. It's almost overwhelming, but it gives you the option to play how you want, and I love that. And you're not stuck. You can run a mission with King and his dual revolvers, and then switch to 9 for the next, or even switch between characters on the fly in the middle of combat. The fan service, to me, I'm a longtime supporter of the franchise, is the best part. Airships that I can fly, world maps to explore, secrets upon secrets, and of course chocobos. It's the little things that throw back to the classics that make me feel like there's hope for Final Fantasy to get away from games like Final Fantasy 13 and Lightning Returns and become that magic casting, world exploring, super deep storytelling franchise that I fell in love with in the 90s. So the bad is the terrible, terrible voice acting. Class 0 are a bunch of badasses, and then you hear them talk, and it's like a bunch of anime rejected voice actors that are having these like weird conversations. Most of the time they're annoying and squeaky, and they just make me want to skip the dialogue altogether. And a lot of the time, the conversations don't really add to the story. It sucks that they kick so much ass and exist in this dark, dark world of war and death. And it's just a contrast from, you know, the announcer kind of telling and recapping the story to them kind of being like a kid's show. Here's an example.
warships could withstand the awesome power of the summoned Eidolons. It seemed that the Militesi offensive would fail. However, the Lassie Kunmi led a special unit past Wuburn's defenses and activated a new weapon, the Crystal Jammer, neutralizing the power of the Vermilion Bird Crystal. Severed from the source of their magical powers, the Wuburn forces were quickly overwhelmed and overrun. Imperial Marshal Sid
It took a great sacrifice. But now the Dominion has a definite chance of winning.
Yes. We were losing in numbers. But the tide...
Now you guys know that I usually save the not so big complaint for last. And it's, not really a big deal, but time. In between missions you have a time limit to talk to people, run side quests, do what you want to do. And when that time runs out, it's time to start the next mission. Now, I understand that this was built, for the PSP as a portable game, and, that probably helped people kind of, alright, I played this chunk, I feel good about it. Tomorrow or, later or on the bus ride, I'll play the next mission. But they could have tweaked the system and given us more time for the HD remake, or even thrown the system out completely and given us free reign to explore, do all the side quests, talk to everybody. It's just a little pet peeve of mine. I'm not 100% completionist these days, but I want to feel like I at least have the options. So they could have thrown that time limit out or maybe extended it. So for being a fun and challenging experience, whether you're a fan of Final Fantasy or not, and sporting a ton and a half of replayability, with a Metacritic score of 72 and an IGN game score of 8.0, I'm giving Final Fantasy Type-0 a 4 out of 5. Well guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy, so this was just fun to make the episode. I definitely encourage everybody to pick it up. The physical copies are pretty inexpensive right now, it seems. I've seen them for like 20 bucks at Walmart. I think you can pick it up at GameStop for like 30 bucks, and it's well worth it. So check it out, and if there's a game you guys want me to cover, let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the tower.